This is the Content Marketing Podcast, episode number 152. Shelley Roth joins us to chat about her new book, Give to Grow: 9 Principles for Conscious Business, Social Media, and Life. Hello and welcome to the Content Marketing Podcast. This is the show where we help you attract and retain business through the power of quality content. I'm your host, Rachel Parker of Resonance Content Marketing, and today is December 10th, 2015. Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. Just a reminder, we are live on iTunes and on Stitcher, so if you're listening to this episode on the blog, you can click on over and subscribe. And if you use a different app for your podcast listening pleasure, we also have an RSS feed, and I will provide that link in the blog post for this episode. To learn more about content marketing, I invite you to download our free audio, 5 Things You Must Know About Content Marketing, at contentmarketingaudio.com. First of all, I want to say shalom and happy Hanukkah to all my friends of the Hebrew faith. I hope you are all enjoying this beautiful holiday with your friends and families. Last week, we had a very insightful chat about micro-content, specifically micro-content on Instagram, Vine, and Snapchat with short-format video expert Frank Dana. If you happen to miss that episode, please feel free to check it out on iTunes or on Stitcher or via the RSS feed. This week, we are honored to be joined by yet another expert who will be a familiar voice to our longtime listeners. Shelley Roth will be joining us again, and she will be chatting about her new book, Give to Grow: 9 Principles for Conscious Business, Social Media, and Life. But first, it's time to check in with our news feed for this week's rundown of news you can use. Kicking off our newsfeed today with some exciting news out of LinkedIn. As you may have heard me talk about how LinkedIn is a vital component of my own content marketing strategy. And as a B2B business, it's kind of a no-brainer. And I've noticed that one downside of that LinkedIn experience has been its mobile app. It really hasn't kept pace with the needs of mobile users, and that is until now. If you've pulled up their mobile app recently, you may have notice a very different look and some really important changes that have made the experience a little more streamlined and a little more in line of what we expect from a mobile application. So if you pull up the app now on your smartphone, you will see a row of buttons at the bottom of the screen. Now, previously at the top, they had 3 options, and then if you wanted something beyond that, you had to kind of go a little bit deeper. But now you've got a nice row of bottoms with the stuff you need at the bottom of the screen. So some things that haven't changed, you can still get to your feed and you can still get to your profile with a single tap. You can also get to the messaging feature in a single tap. And if you've seen that lately, LinkedIn across the board on their desktop, their browser version, and their mobile apps, it's a very different look. It almost looks like a text messaging interface in that you can see messages from the entire conversation with messages from different parties on the opposite side of the screen. A very, very cool feature from LinkedIn because you can now see entire conversations. Also, what they have added to their mobile app is a My Network button. And that is taking the Keep in Touch feature of LinkedIn. That is such an important part of my daily practice. That's where you keep up with who's having work anniversaries, new jobs, birthdays, who has published new posts. And you can send your best wishes or comment or get in touch with people based on what they're doing. And that's been a really important part of my own networking on LinkedIn, and it's great to see the mobile app keeping up with people's need to do that. Also, and this is according to LinkedIn's blog post where they announced this new app, the search feature is now 300% faster and much smarter. So as you type in your search, it starts filling in the search results as you type, and those results come up much, much faster than previously. So I approve. Thumbs up from this girl. I think they did a great job with it, and I recommend you check it out. It is available on Apple's App Store and and also on Google Play. Also, some news out of Facebook. So you may remember that Facebook now allows users to send messages to your pages, just like you would a private message to a connection. Well, now what you can do is you can actually embed a widget on your website that lets people message you through Facebook right there on your website. So no need to click away if they need to message you to ask about an order or, when are you open on Christmas Day, et cetera, et cetera. They can actually enter that message right there on your website through this widget. You would get the message through Facebook and be able to respond to them there. So this is great for, it's great for retail. It's great for any business where you need to keep a strong line of communication open between you and your customers. So from the consumer standpoint, instead of having to hunt around for an email address or having to complete your contact us form, type in their email address and phone number and all that stuff, your website visitors can actually message you through Facebook. Now there's another plugin that Facebook has announced that lets you feature your Facebook events right there on your website. And this is great because if you, let's say you're planning a conference and you need to adjust the venue. Well, previously, if you had that on your website and you had a Facebook event, you would have to make those updates in both places. But what this new feature from Facebook does, it lets you manage everything from one place. So if you have a change of venue, you just make the change in Facebook and then it's automatically updated on your site. You can learn more about these features by going over to the Facebook developer site. And there's lots and lots of techie stuff that I pay people to understand for me. So if you are interested in these features and you have a good web developer, send that person over to the Facebook developer site to learn more. Okay, the content hit of the week is called How to Create an Effective Content Marketing Strategy for 2016. This is written by Steve Olensky over on Marketing Land. And, it's that time of year. It's not just the holidays, of course, but it is strategic planning time for 2016. And I talk a lot about strategy, and I think it's important that if you're in that strategy process, or even if you've already basically completed your strategy, I think it's still important to keep your feelers out and see what's out there and see what other advice people have to offer. Because you may stumble across some approaches that you haven't even thought of yet. And Steve offers some very good advice in this blog post over on Marketing Land. So very good read, and I will provide the link in the blog post for this episode. That's it for this week's update. If you stumble across something you think might be of interest to your fellow content marketers, please shoot it on over to us so that we can share. Now it's time for this week's Spotlight segment. Shelley Roth joins us to chat about her latest book, Give to Grow: 9 Principles for Conscious Business, Social Media, and Life. Oh my gosh, I just realized I made a grave error in today's introduction. I forgot to say howdy. I usually say hello, or as we say in Texas, howdy. I totally forgot the howdy this week. Apologies. And let me make up for that by saying howdy. Okay, Shelley Roth is an entrepreneur, trainer, speaker, consultant, and author, helping individuals, organizations, and teams improve marketing effectiveness, sales results, and growth through her company, Springboard. Springboard's methodologies and services are based on over 25 years of successful business development, sales, and educational leadership, working with individuals, small businesses, and Fortune 500 corporations. Shelley has a bachelor's degree in education and holds a master's in educational psychology and educational administration. Her books are available on Amazon via ShelleyRoth.com. Without further ado, here's my interview with Shelley Roth to talk about her new book, Give to Grow: 9 Principles for Conscious Business, Social Media, and Life. Hey, Shelley, welcome to the podcast.
Well, hey, Rachel, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I just realized you are our very first three-peater. You are the first guest who has been with us 3 times, so congratulations.
Thank you for that. And I'm awaiting my badge in the mail.
That's right. That's right. We'll have a badge for you. So, congratulations on the new book. This is book number 3, and when I have authors on the podcast, I like to start with your last book and talk about the evolution to this one. So, your last book was Shedding Your Sales Shark. So, tell me about how you got from day one after that one was published to Give to Grow, which is the new book.
Well, I think the shedding your sales shark was all about why trying to sell on social media really doesn't work. And as I've been teaching classes over the last 8 years on Facebook and LinkedIn and email marketing, it really evolved to, well, that's great. So once you're no longer a sales shark, how do you act out there when you're on social media? And I realized that the basic principles that I use in my life and in my business life and social media marketing were really what resonated with a lot of people in my classes. So I thought, well, I'm going to start a Google Hangout, as I called it, Fun Day School for business. And we did Fun Day School for 9 months, and there were 9 principles. And about into the third principle, during that third month, I realized, wait a minute, we have a book here. We can take these principles and put them in a book. And that's how the book evolved and was written.
I have to say it's the most unique approach to a book that I've seen. I've never seen anyone take a Hangout series and make a book out of it.
Well, it hit me that like these principles are very important in your life, let alone your business. And it's just been an amazing experience. I have to admit, this third one was the absolute 9 months. Like, I've never been pregnant, but it has to be like giving birth to a baby, because it was this book was a long time coming.
And forgive me, I've yet to give the complete title. It's Give to Grow: 9 Principles for Conscious Business, Social Media, and Life. And Shelley, you start off with a little bit of your own story from your days in corporate America. And you tell a great story about how you were just desperate to find something to hang on to that just didn't, for lack of a better phrase, make you sick to your stomach. So how did that corporate experience kind of evolve into the Give to Grow principle?
Well, I just felt empty, as a lot of people I think do, as they're trying to find their way in the world and their purpose in the world. And just not knowing what I wanted to do, how it evolved is real simple. I got fired by the last big Fortune 500 company I worked for, which was devastating. Actually, it was right around the holidays, which I don't know why they do it then. I guess because they figure you have time to lick your wounds. But when I got fired, I realized my whole mission was to bring spirituality to corporate America. That was the flag I was carrying. And even though I worked with someone and we tried to bring spirituality to corporate America, I realized that it has nothing to do with being or bringing anything. It's just being. And some of the principles that have just transformed my business over the last 8 years have been the principles in the book, such as giving to grow versus giving to get.
Yep, absolutely. So, I want to start by talking about a few of these principles. Now, chapter 1 is called From Win-Lose to Win-Win to Give to Get to Give to Grow. So tell me a little bit about that progression.
Well, I'll just use it in my own life. Back in the day when I was selling in corporate, it was always it's all about winning. It's, take no prisoners, scorch the earth.
Eat what you kill.
Eat what you kill. All those old adages that just didn't work for me. They didn't feel right. And then I went to give to get. It was like, okay, if I start giving, I'll get something back. So then I had an expectation that if I gave, then I darn well better get something back. And the minute that I let that go and just gave, not to say you shouldn't get paid for your work. That's not what I'm saying at all. But when you realize that, especially with the advent of social media, it's so easy to give and contribute. And in my case, I give one of my gives is my email marketing newsletter. It's a video tip.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized the more I gave, the more I grew. It was the law of attraction. I mean, that's just how it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love how this segues so beautifully with our mission as content marketers, because the whole idea behind content marketing is you give your expertise, you share what you know, and then that will, not intentionally, but that will lead to benefits in the long run.
Yeah, it's almost a leap of faith. And
Mm-hmm.
trust me, I have sales scars. That's my second book was all about those, shedding my sales shark.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sometimes hard to have that faith, but the more, and I still have those scars, but the more I release that and come from a place of give to grow, the more my business flourishes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I want to talk about a little bit about this whole give to grow principle, because it seems like when we talk about this, that it's not just some kind of woo woo out there thing, that companies really are getting serious about actually contributing. And to me, that's so opposed to what you grew up with and I grew up with, which is companies just kind of sit in their tower and count their profits, and then, we'll give a donation to the United Way at Christmas, and then, we're done. So, are you seeing that kind of shift occurring even in the big corporate levels?
We interviewed 7 companies for the book, and it was very refreshing. And some of them were big companies, and some were small. It was quite diverse. I would say that yes, I think it's shifting when some of the the companies, like the Twitter founder, it was a Biz Stone, is that who founded Twitter? I think started a new company. They have a different attitude. And now, just
Yeah.
what in the news, Mark Zuckerberg is like giving away $45 billion starting
Right.
like now
Mhm.
instead of waiting. I just think it's a shift,
Mhm.
that it's not about, everything's been about profits and ROI, return on investment. It just can't, everything in life is ebb and flow. You cannot continually have a rise in profits. You have to do something else to balance the scale.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. It's funny. Just this week, I was interviewing the CEO of a company called Nepris, and the whole premise behind the company is connecting industry experts with classrooms. So, like, if a high school physics class is studying pneumatics, they can actually connect with an engineer of General Motors and answer questions. And so I was talking to her about this. I said, "Well, how do you find experts to do that?" And she said, "No, Rachel, it's the other way around. Experts are lining up to take part in this and to share their expertise." So I think that's definitely another sign of the times. People are looking to give.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, I just think there's a huge, I feel like Donald Trump, huge shift in how this is happening and evolving, and it feels good to give. I
Yeah.
mean, let's face it, that's what. There's nothing that makes me feel better than to see people, the popcorn kernel pop in the bag, and
Hmm.
someone learn something and evolve and grow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. So one of the principles that you talk about, I think probably one of my favorite principles, is from return on investment to return on influence. And this is something that I struggle with clients all the time, because they want to know the ROI of every single tweet. And sometimes I just got to say, it's like compound interest. You just kind of keep giving, um, and then eventually it pays back. So how do you explain that principle of return on influence?
Well, I think when I explain it, it's about building your brand
Hmm.
and building. You want to be thought of as a thought leader,
Hmm.
and as you contribute out there with the field that you're excellent at, like you do, Rachel, you share
Hmm.
all kinds of content, and I learned so much from you.
Hmm.
You are my go-to expert in content marketing because you built your brand around that, and you didn't do it by charging me. You did it by giving to grow and by being influential out there in the marketplace when you are sharing on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. So it's really just, if you can get it off of the investment piece and
Hmm.
really talk to building you as a thought leader, you as a brand expert, That kind of helps with that.
Yeah, I think it helps the content as well, because if you're writing every single blog post with what am I going to get out of this, I think that energy is gonna translate, and it's just not going to work for you.
And you know what? I love that, because one of the things I say in my classes is, like, I do videos all the time. I never do a video when I have to. I do a video when I want to. And so when you're doing a post, just like you said, if you're coming from I have to do this and I expect
Yeah.
something back, the energy is just wrong.
Yep. Another principle that really caught my eye is principle number 7, which is from productivity to presence. And I was just reading the intro. It started out as the name from human doings to human beings, and this really struck me because it seems we as a society are so obsessed with productivity. I go through my Facebook feed and I see 12 different articles from Fast Company or Lord knows where about being productive. So when we talk about productivity to presence, what does that look like?
Well, it's not getting caught in the trap of having to be busy all the time and having to be doing all the time. I think we're, as humans, so used to being cogs in the wheel and just constantly doing. And I have to say that just yesterday, the editor of the book, J. Kobe Wayne, sent me an article from the Houston Business Review, or not a blog or whatever it was. And it was all about, we need to get out of the trap of productivity, because the minute that you stop constantly being in motion and you allow yourself the space to create, whether it's sitting in the woods, whatever your muse is, so to speak, that's when the magic happens. And that's where, when you're present to the space that you're in, you allow something else to occur.
Yeah.
And I'm just as guilty as the next person, because I'm always being productive.
Yes.
And not enough time to be present.
Yeah, Shelley, I really needed that message right about now because, it's the end of the year, things are winding down a little bit, and I find myself inventing things to do. It's like, why? Go in the backyard and play with the dogs.
Play with the dogs. That they're your muse, and
That's right.
that's when the magic comes in.
It is, yeah. Yep, definitely. So, Shelley, I want to talk a little bit about some of these companies that you spoke to about their conscious business practices. And I want to start with blinds.com, which I love them. I mean, Houston company. So what did you learn from them about their contributions and how they give to grow?
Well, blinds.com, it's funny. I don't even, of all the companies, that was the one I interviewed, so I'm glad you picked it.
Oh, good.
I had someone else interviewing the others.
Uh-huh.
But he actually lost his wife, and this was such a huge punch in the gut to him and a wake-up call. And his way of being present in his business is to develop his employees and to make sure that they're growing and learning and thriving. So he might not use the same language that I use in my book, but I definitely was impressed with how it's all about making sure his employees are um, being part of growing. And that's so important to him. And that's probably the big example that I got from him, without going back and looking at the interview again.
Yeah. And it's funny, blinds.com, speaking of giving to grow, literally, they just got bought by Home Depot for quite a chunk of change.
Yeah, we talked about that. That happened, I guess, about 9 months ago, and they're still blinds.com, but yes, they are owned by Home Depot. And yeah, it's just encouraging. I don't know if you're familiar with B Corps. We decided to use the B Corp list. Those are companies that get a distinction from for doing certain things the right way, whether it's giving back or how they are, if they're energy conscious. But the bottom line is we pulled our interviewees from that B Corp. So every one of the companies in there, I do believe, is a B Corp.
Interesting. So moving on a little bit further, one thing that I love about all your work, Shelley, is it's not just kind of this like, woo-woo navel gazing. Let's talk about big picture, and you're very practical, and you do have a chapter focused on the tools that people can use to incorporate conscious business practices into their business. So from a practical standpoint, if someone is listening and wanting to incorporate these principles, what kind of things can they do?
I think they can start keeping a checklist of.
Besides buying the book, obviously.
Yeah, they need to buy the book. And by the way, buy the book on December 11th. Come to our virtual book launch. We're going to have all kinds of fun giveaways. But yeah, there's different things that you can do as a company just to see and keep a checklist about how what is your mission statement? How do you interface with your employees? Do you give them time? This was a big deal for me, and I would love to see this. I remember when I was in school, we would have I was a teacher, and we would have field trips, and I loved those field trips because it opened up new thinking and new ways of being. Well, I would love to see companies like have that on their balance sheet. Are you doing field trips? Are you not just contributing to nonprofits, which is just too easy to write a check, but actually investing in your employees, giving them the time and space to be creative? Bringing in grandparents into the company to take care. I'm getting back to the checklist of the balance sheet, which I think is so important. And when we do the workshop, when we have the workshop, we're going to have some of these exercises that we can actually create inside the class and see if you are a conscious business and how you're doing and how you might do better in a lot of those areas.
Yeah, that's great. And finally, we kind of go back to your roots here, because a lot of people who know you as the social media queen, as you have been since before we had the term social media. Back when it was just Facebook and LinkedIn and these other websites. But you devote a whole chapter to using these 9 principles in social media. So how can we apply these to our day-to-day social media life?
Well, I think, again, like you already stated, the beautiful thing on social media, you can share your podcast. Like, you have a great podcast. You can share your video knowledge through video. You can share Give to Grow. You can share what you have through a blog, on your website, through an email marketing newsletter. It's just such a great platform so all the social platforms to contribute. And that's probably when in the chapter that's dedicated to using those 9 principles in social media is really about how do you do that? What can you do?
Yep, absolutely. So Shelley, I want to talk a little bit about, before we get to the launch, I want to talk a little bit about how you went about putting this book together, because as you said, it came about as a result of a 9-month series of these Google Hangouts. So how did you get from Google Hangouts, from a practical standpoint, from Google Hangouts to words on a page?
Well, Heather Swick, who you will meet at our luncheon, took all of the Google Hangouts, which we recorded, and transcribed them.
Wow.
And so they were all transcriptions. And I didn't mention that, but on every Hangout, we had a panel of small business owners on the panel that contributed their thoughts on the principle of the month. And so she transcribed them, and then we went through that and fine-tuned them, and that basically is the meat of the book.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and you actually have screenshots of some of the panels here, which is awesome.
Yeah, they didn't have the best resolution, but we thought it would be fun to include them.
Yeah, and I was actually sick on the day that I was participating. So you've got a nice shot of me with no makeup on. So in the name of transparency, you're welcome.
I loved it, and I think it's fantastic. So I appreciate you being you were on that panel and part of the group, and you made the book. So
yeah, and it was awesome because the whole group dynamic. We started off with this principle, and we might and you put together those panels so well because you might have like a communications expert and a business coach and a business owner in another area, and it was just so fascinating to see everybody's different perspectives on these principles.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I'm very, very, very grateful that everybody helped so much. This book was a labor of love for sure.
Many hours in Round Top, Texas.
Yes, yeah. My muse is nature and being outside. That's where I can open up and let book number 4, which will be coming. I'm not ready to discuss it yet, but It's coming.
Yeah. For our audience, Shelley has a fortress of solitude in Round Top, Texas. That's where she retreats to put her books together and to emerge with her latest bit of brilliance.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the virtual launch party. That is coming up on Friday, December 11th. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, at 11 o'clock Central Time, we're going to do, I've done launch parties virtually before, but this is the first time it's actually using a tool. It's using Google Hangouts, which is where you live broadcast, but there's a tool called 22, the number 22 Social, and they have an app for Facebook that allows you to broadcast that hangout live on Facebook because that's where everybody's hanging. So we want to make sure that we're on Facebook, and if everything goes according to what we want, we'll be on Facebook. And what's the easiest way to tell them how to find that, Rachel?
I will put a link to it in the blog post for this episode, and I will also tweet it out when we talk about this episode.
Yeah, so we're going to give away books. We're going to do all kinds of. We're going to give away seats in my class in Houston this January 21st of next year. We're going to do all kinds of fun stuff, and hopefully have a lot of good discussion going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of which, tell me a little bit about this exciting workshop that you have planned that is based on the book.
Yeah, it's going to be January 21st, and I'm not real sure the title. I think I'm just going to call it Give to Grow, 9 Principles for Conscious Business and Social Media.
Yeah.
Kind of leave it at that. And it's going to be a fun workshop because it will include the book, the exercises in the book. We will do a few of those while we were live in the class. And the big leap of faith for me is I'm really not charging for these workshops. I'm going to ask people that if they receive something from the book, I'm going to drink my own Kool-Aid here. And if they want to contribute, I will have a link on my website where they can have an abundant exchange. Whatever you get, you can give back, and the money that comes in will be donated to preserving Houston's natural habitat.
Oh, wonderful. What a great charity.
Yep. There'll be several, like the BioCity Conservation and some of the other charities out there.
Wonderful. And in next Friday's Hangout, you're going to be giving away some seats to that workshop as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We are. We'll probably every 10 or 15 minutes we'll start doing some drawings and giveaways. So if you can't be there for the full hour, and we'll have Q&A afterwards. If you can't be there, just stop by anytime, and every 10 minutes we're going to do something.
There you go. And I know you're going to have some of the original Fun Day School for Business crowd drop in as well.
Absolutely. There'll be some panelists on with us from the beginning to maybe through the process. And we're going to have some of their pearls of wisdom that are in the book. We'll have those as conversation contributions from them. So, yes, we'll have them live.
Fantastic. Well, Shelley, again, the title of the book is Give to Grow, 9 Principles for Conscious Business, Social Media, and Life. The launch party is December 11th. And if you can't join for the launch party, where will the book be available?
Probably the easiest way is just to go to ShelleyRoth.com, ShelleyRoth.com, and click on the book icon, or you can head over to Amazon and Give to Grow, search Give to Grow, and you'll see it.
Okay, wonderful. Well, Shelley, thank you so much for joining us today, and look forward to seeing you and hanging out with you at the launch party.
Thank you, Rachel. It's always a pleasure.
Same here. Thanks. Many thanks again to Shelley for joining us today. Again, you can purchase a copy of her book, Give to Grow, 9 Principles for Conscious Business, Social Media, and Life, and that's going to be available starting tomorrow, Friday, December 11th. Now, the best way to get to that link to grab your own copy is to go to ShelleyRoth.com. That's ShelleyRoth.com, and there is a link there that says Shelley's Books, and that will take you straight to her page on Amazon. And I will also give you the link in the blog post for this episode. If you have any questions or want to add to the conversation, I would love to hear from you, and I will give that contact info at the end of the podcast. Now it's time for our content marketing tip of the week. This past Monday, I did something that I do every single year. Every single year, at the beginning of Hanukkah, I call my friend Scotty, and whether I get his voicemail or speak to him in person, I do the same thing every year. Put on your yarmulke, here comes Hanukkah, so much Funukkah to celebrate Hanukkah. I sing that to him every single year, and that is our excuse to get in touch and catch up and see what's going on with us and our families. And I was thinking about that as I was serenading his voicemail earlier this week, and it got me thinking about how that goofy little tradition is, in its own odd little way, content marketing. It's getting in touch with someone and delivering something of value. In this case, a serenade of the Hanukkah song. And I was thinking about Jim Kukral. Way back in the day, he used to do a daily webcast called the Daily Flip. And one thing he would do is pull out his ukulele and sing happy birthday to whoever in his audience had a birthday that day. Now, what's the point of all this? Am I saying that you have to sing to your clients or sing to your audience? No, and I will leave it up to your discretion whether or not you choose to go that route. But, it got me to thinking of the importance of having something unique in your messaging, some catchphrase, some unique way of expressing something. Those unique qualities are really the ones that stand out and make you memorable to your audience. Another example is, I remember something HubSpot did a couple of years ago. One of their resident experts is Dan Zarella, who is the social media scientist. And in his presentations, Dan talks about rainbows and unicorns, where he talks about these kind of pie-in-the-sky notions that are completely unrealistic. So HubSpot once did a photo series where they had this little unicorn hand puppet. And the photos were of different scenes with the hand puppet in different situations around the office. And the challenge was caption this. So it was the unicorn puppet holding a ping pong paddle at their ping pong table, or drinking directly out of the water cooler, and just in these kind of odd, quirky situations around the office. But that was memorable. I remember that. And I think they did that a few years ago, but I remembered it because it was unique. So, and I know it's a fine line. I mean, if quirky is not part of your brand, you need to respect that and honor that, but play with the idea of having some unique messaging. A catchphrase, a unique way of expressing something. That is what's going to make you stand out, and that's what's going to make you memorable to your audience. So as you look at your strategy for 2016, think about how you can incorporate some unique approaches in your messaging to your audiences. I guarantee they will remember you for it, and it will keep them coming back. Okay, campers, that's it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. I want to say thank you again to our special guest, Shelley Roth. Again, that website where you can find the link to all her books, including her latest, that link is shelleyroth.com. That's SHELLEYROTH.com. If you like what you've heard today, please feel free to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or via our RSS feed. And if you really like what you've heard, please leave us a quick review on iTunes. Also, if you want to learn more about content marketing, I invite you to check out our website, resonancecontent.com, where you'll find our blog as well as links to all our social media pages. And finally, if you want to learn more about content marketing, I invite you to download our free audio resource. It's called 5 Things You Must Know About Content Marketing, and you can grab a copy at contentmarketingaudio.com. As always, I like to leave you with a quote, and today's comes from the late, great Billie Holiday. She once said, quote, "If I'm going to sing like someone else, then I don't need to sing at all," unquote. Again, this is Rachel Parker with Resonance Content Marketing. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you again next week. Take care.